Parents who got reported to CPS for speaking their native language at home. What happened? The CPS investigator was already inside my house when I got home from work, sitting at my kitchen table with my 7-year-old daughter, while my wife stood in the corner, arms wrapped around herself, like she was trying to hold her own pieces together. The investigator had a manila folder open, asking Hannah questions in that artificially gentle voice adults use when they're trying to get children to reveal secrets. I dropped my briefcase on the floor. The sound made everyone turn. The investigator stood up, introduced herself as Linda Kowalski, 15 years with Child Protective Services, said we needed to talk about serious concerns that had been reported about our family. My daughter's face was streaked with tears. My wife's eyes were red and swollen. I asked what was happening. Linda said someone had filed a report claiming our children were being isolated, prevented from speaking English, potentially experiencing educational neglect. Due to language barriers we were deliberately maintaining. I'd been living in this neighborhood for 8 months when the trouble started. My wife Minji and I had moved to suburban Ohio from Seattle after I got transferred. Pharmaceutical research. We'd bought a house in a quiet development, good schools. We had 2 kids, Hannah, who was 7, Ethan, who was 5, both born in the United States, completely bilingual in English and Korean. At home, we spoke primarily Korean. We wanted our children to maintain connection to their heritage, to communicate with their grandparents, who lived in Seoul, in public, at school, with friends. The kids spoke perfect English, without any accent or difficulty. They were both excellent students. Hannah reading above grade level. Ethan already doing basic math. That impressed his kindergarten teacher. We were normal parents, raising our kids to be bilingual and bicultural. The neighborhood seemed fine initially. People waved when we drove past, smiled at the kids playing in the yard. Our next door neighbor was Deborah Winters, mid-50s with blonde hair, kept in a severe bob, a tendency to watch the street from her front window, like she was monitoring for violations. She'd introduced herself the day we moved in, bringing over cookies, asking pointed questions about where we were from, how long we'd been in America, whether we spoke English at home. I'd answered politely. We were from Seattle originally. I'd been born in America. Minji had immigrated as a teenager. Our kids were native English speakers, who also spoke Korean. Deborah smiled, in a way that didn't reach her eyes, said she hoped we'd teach our children to appreciate American values, the importance of English as the primary language. Minji gripped my hand hard after Deborah left, saying something felt wrong. I told her she was reading too much into it. The first real incident happened 3 months later. Saturday morning in May. The kids were playing in our backyard. I was inside making lunch. Could hear them through the kitchen window, laughing and chattering in Korean, while they played on the swing set, making up some elaborate game, switching between Korean and English, the way bilingual kids do. I heard Deborah's voice from her yard, asking what language they were speaking. Hannah explained they were speaking Korean. That's what they spoke with their parents sometimes. Deborah's voice went sharp and cold. This is America. You need to speak English. Hannah said they did speak English. At school, with friends. They were bilingual. Deborah said speaking foreign languages at home would confuse them, make them bad at English. Their parents were doing them a disservice. I came outside immediately, found Deborah leaning over our fence, literally looming over my children, telling them they needed to practice English more. I asked Deborah politely but firmly to not comment on our parenting choices or our language use. She straightened up, said she was just trying to help, that she'd seen families like ours struggle. I told her our children were perfectly bilingual, perfectly fine. She said she'd worked as a teacher's aide for 30 years, knew what she was talking about. Children who spoke foreign languages at home always had problems in school eventually. I pointed out both our kids were doing exceptionally well academically. Deborah's face went tight, said we'd see that these things caught up eventually. She went inside her house. Minji said we should document what happened, write down the date, what Deborah had said. I told her she was being paranoid. Looking back, I should have listened. The school calls started 2 weeks later. Hannah's teacher called, asking to schedule a meeting about Hannah's language development concerns. I was confused. Hannah's last report card had been all excellent marks. Mrs. Stevens said she'd received information, suggesting Hannah might be struggling due to primary use of another language at home. I asked where she'd gotten that information. It was completely false. Long pause. A concerned community member had reached out with observations about our family's language patterns. My stomach dropped. I asked if this was Deborah Winters. Another pause. She couldn't disclose who made the report, but the school was obligated to follow up on any concerns about student welfare. And now, CPS was sitting at my kitchen table. That's when Linda opened the folder. Full story is linked below or on my channel.